ups and downs, almost like you would expect from a backup. And here's my example, Sage. So I pulled up Ryan Fitzpatrick's stats and just looked at his last 58 starts or 67 games. And then I looked at Kirk Cousins' last 66 games to try and give me some sort of sample. And the win-loss record is obviously worse for Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I'm not counting this year because his team is tanking. But in terms of his yards per attempt factored for sacks, they're exactly the same. Ryan Fitzpatrick in his last 67 games, 6.81. Kirk Cousins in his last 66 games, 6.81. And I think what you get around to is, did this team kind of get fooled a little bit by the situation that they were in, that they panicked to pay somebody? Did they get fooled by big fantasy statistics that were put up, by throws that were made in games where Washington was losing when he had a great left tackle and great weapons and put up all those numbers? I think that's the question that a lot of Vikings fans are probably asking themselves. Last year, when we would talk about this stuff, Sage, I would get tweet after tweet after tweet of people saying, you're too hard on Kirk. It's Tom Compton's fault. It's Mike Remmers' fault. It's, Pat Elflein's fault. It's the offensive line. It's the offensive line. And I think that now there's a very different tenor after this game from Vikings fans where they're saying, you know what, the offensive line wasn't good for sure on the interior again. But at some point, we just have to say these unexplainable plays are the norm. They're not something that can be coached out of him. And even though you explained in unbelievably football depth why Gary Kubiak and Kevin Stefanski have had it right, and I thought that the play designs were good. There were open receivers yesterday all over the place. This is just who Kirk Cousins is going to be, and I don't know what they're supposed to do about it. You can't pass 10 times every game, and so you're treating a $28 million per year quarterback almost like Case Keenum, where you're holding on for dear life, hoping that the other team drops the interceptions.
Well, and, listen, occasionally Case would make a play when the offensive line broke down and make some really good things happen. He had that sort of playmaking ability within him and didn't turn the ball over a ton. Usually it seemed like it was one throw a game. He'd make some terrible decision. Sometimes it would work out and sometimes it wouldn't. But, more often than not, he did a pretty good job of playing for singles and doubles and occasionally making a big time play. But let's cover, I'd really like to cover the interception from the 7-yard line. You think about that, you went back and rewatched it this morning. They had pretty much run the ball on that drive. They got good field position. They ran the ball. They ended up at a 3rd and short. They threw the ball to Kyle Rudolph, who almost dropped it, but then snagged it a couple inches off the ground. They run the ball again a couple times with both Dalvin and Madison. They get the ball down to the 7-yard line. You would think, if you're Kevin Stefanski, run the ball again, right? But I will say this. 7-yard line, a bootleg on that's a good time to run it. Everyone's sort of keen on the run. Those sometimes are the best times. You're probably going to get one-on-one coverage on the outside. If the play is not there, you have to trust that your quarterback is going to throw the ball away. And, one of the things I learned as a rookie, Brian Schottenheimer was my quarterback's coach, and we would talk about, sometimes protecting the play caller. Listen, when you're over there on the sidelines, it's hard to call every play perfect. This is the perfect time to run this, that, or the other. Yep. So the quarterback sometimes, if in fact maybe the corner didn't call the best play, you protect him just like he's trying to protect you. You protect the play caller by just throwing the ball away and moving on. And obviously Stefanski did not get that protection yesterday. A Hail Mary throw from the 7 on 1st down and goal. So he's got to make better decisions. He's got to be more accurate. The team does have this style will win a lot of games. They might, if they have this style and Kirk plays just a little bit better, they might win 10 or 11 games this year. They really could. This defense looks very, very good. If they could stop the run a little bit better, that would be nice. The offensive line is doing a great job in run blocking. Again, another guy, Bradbury, obviously did not play very well, at least in the passing game. That's an issue for them. They have to be aware through 2 games, by the way, of protecting their center in pass protection. He struggles. He's not a big guy. I think he might try to pass protect with his pads a little bit too high. He's probably got to get a little bit lower for leverage, but he's getting pushed back a lot of times in pass protection. His run blocking, very good. And he got called for a holding penalty yesterday. I thought it was crap. It was a pretty good run block, and he finished the guy off, and they ended up calling a holding penalty. But you can win. You're not going to have all pros at every position. You can win with a rookie center who's not great in pass protection but does a lot of other things well, an offensive line that's run the football well, and a really good defense. You can win a lot of football games, but your quarterback has to make good decisions, and he has to hit open guys when they're indeed open.
Yeah, and that was the feeling that I was having yesterday, Sages. Yes, it's week 2, and I don't want to freak out and overreact and say, cut Cousins or start Mannion or anything that's just preposterous or something like that. But I do have a feeling that they'll win against Oakland by a lot, and it's at home, and Derek Carr's not that good, and they'll run over them and win 35-14 or something, and then we'll say, oh, well, look at that bounce back by Cousins, and then they'll go to Chicago, and then we'll have more of this, and then they'll go, I mean, it's just it's almost like you could draw out the map of the season now, and it might end up with 10 wins. I was looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick's career and what he has done at different times to convince teams that he can actually be a good starting quarterback. And with the New York Jets one year, he went 10-5 going into the final week of the season, had a great run, beat the New England Patriots as a member of the New York Jets 26-20 in a game. And then he went to Buffalo, who was out of the playoffs, went 16 for 37 with 3 picks, and they missed the postseason. He had everything around him. It was a good team, good wide receivers, great defense, check all the boxes, good coaching staff, everything else. And at the end, Fitzpatrick just couldn't get it done. And I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go with this when you feel like, yeah, this is how this is probably going to play out. And so should we look at it and say, boy, there's nothing you could really do? Are they wasting this great defense? Are they supposed to hold someone responsible if this doesn't go well when they had to pick versus him and Case Keenum and Teddy Bridgewater with the knee? And all these conversations, Sage, just came flooding in yesterday. And we've gone absurdly late to the break here. But I don't know where you're at with this, because I think it could still be a good team. But I could totally understand with fans if they looked at this season after yesterday and went, boy, this is just going to be Groundhog's Day.
Well, the NFC North is going to be a battle. Every single one of these division games is going to be a close ball game, and just by the way the Vikings play, there's going to be a lot of close ball games, which means can't turn the ball over in close ball games, can't miss open guys on third down in close ball games. I mean, these are going to be nail biters all year. This is not going to be, if the Vikings win 10 games or 11 games this year, get to the playoffs. I don't see this being like 2017, where I think in something like 9 of those 14 wins, they were up at some point by 16 points or more in those games. There was a crazy stat, I remember, at the end of that season. This is not going to be one of those types of years. I think there's going to be a lot of close ball games. Bailey's got to make those clutch kicks. Kirk's got to make those clutch plays, and they just got to stop turning the ball over. Stop fumbling, stop throwing interceptions, because I don't care how good a defense you have or how good a run game you have. If you turn the ball over 4 times, you're going to lose 95% of those games. And those are the stats that matter. It's not passing yards or completion percentage, turnovers, and again, like the red zone, the third downs. Those are, to me, the key stats that matter. And again, Kirk has to play better. We'll see if he can, or else we can just take this this show that I'm sure you guys are recording, and we can just play it in week 6.
Yeah.
Right? We can play it in week 12, and we just, not have to do this every single week, and I can go play golf or something. So, because it is what I don't want to say it is what it is, because we have seen Kirk play well. That Rams game last year, man, he was on fire. And they scored, 40 points or 38 points. They were lighting it up. And last year at Green Bay, he was lighting it up. But, we need him to light it up in a game where the other team's are really good and our defense is playing well, and we can win by 2 or 3 touchdowns and things like that. So hopefully Kirk plays better next week. That's all you can really say. Hopefully he plays better next week. The nice thing is, when you have a good defense and you have a running game, it's like rebounding. You can always have an off shooting night, but dang it, you can rebound good every night, right? Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that you don't ever have to have an off night. And we don't need the John Starks 3 of 18 performance.
Why'd you bring that up?
We need consistency. We need consistency.
Yeah, that's my childhood right there.
We need Kirk to be more consistent.